Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started here. So again, I'm Chief Communications Officer Stephanie Marsh. Joining us today, we have Akron Mayor Dan Horrigan, Police Chief Steve Mylett, Deputy Mayor Marco Somerville, and then we also have Chief of Staff Gert Wilms. I have a few updates to start us off this morning. Lock 3 has some planned events for this weekend, starting with tomorrow, Rock the Lock with Double Vision. Opener is Blue Hour. Doors open at 6. Concert's going to be at 7 p.m. On Saturday, we have Rock the Lock Extra. That's with Who's Bad with Umage Nation. Again, doors open at 6. Concert goes on at 7. And then Sunday, there's a family movie night with Zootopia, and that's at 8:45 p.m. Lastly, the Andrea Rose Teodosio 5K will be held on Saturday morning. All those events are planned to still happen at Lock 3 this weekend. We have no intention of canceling those. There's no update to the curfew at this time. We are actively reviewing the need for that and we'll update it accordingly. Right now, it is currently still in place from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. and that's for the downtown footprint only. There's just a couple planned road closures for the downtown footprint as well. Similar to what we've had recently, High Street will be closed and that's from Bowery to State and that'll be starting at 5:30 p.m. And those are our updates. Mayor Horrigan, did you want to make a comment?
Good morning. Thanks for everybody for joining us today. Let me continue to express my condolences for Jalen Walker and his family, as yesterday was a community day of mourning. And I know the community continues to grieve and continues to mourn. The events have been profoundly shocking to a number across the community. But I've always said, I think the strength of this community is its people. And I continue we'll be able to listen and have part of those difficult conversations and see the part of that real change of how we all get there. So I continued, I appreciate everybody that is able to come out and to show that support, not only for the city, but that healing process that we all need to be part of. Steph, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. We were going to go ahead and jump right into questions then from this point. So the first one is going to be from Tara Morgan with News 5. She said, when and why did the city get rid of dash cameras? And what do you think about the calls by Jalen Walker's attorneys to bring those cameras back? Is the city considering that?
So I'm not sure actually when we went away from dash cameras. I'm being told it's about 7 years ago. I don't know what the thought process was at the time. Dash cameras definitely have value, as do body cams, and certainly we will have further discussions here in the coming days and weeks about this topic.
Yeah, I would only add that I know Councilwoman Tara Mosley has proposed a resolution, and we continue to look at that. The old dash cams were pretty much you had to have a VCR in your car, and obviously that technology is extremely outmoded. But looking at that seriously, to be able to reinstitute that, and we'll continue to have that discussion to be able to do that, to have dash cams. I know a number of communities have both body-worn cameras and dash cams, and so that'll be obviously a discussion with City Council and our Akron Police Department leadership on the most effective way to be able to deploy them and obviously quickly deploy them.
Thanks. The next question is from Hannah Catlett with WOIO. We see data in the city's most recent crime snapshot showing that while crime is down overall in the city this year, in the months leading up to the Walker shooting, APD's use of force incidents were up slightly from last year. Can you explain why and whether there is a specific reason for that? And can you tell us whether more officers have been disciplined for use of force this year than last? Chief?
So thank you for that question. I can't give you an explanation of why we're seeing 12 additional incidents of use of force compared to this time last year. When you consider overall our numbers, they are insanely low. When you think about the total number of calls that we've or interactions we had with the public in 2021, which is close to 150,000, and you add the number of the times that where force was used, it comes down to like less than 1%. And we are on track right now to again repeat that. When I look back over the years, this has been consistent over the last several years. You know, at the conclusion of the year, we analyze every use of force when it happens, but then to inform us moving forward If there's things that we need to improve on or things that we need to change, we look overall for the entire year performance and we'll make adjustments. I don't have the number in front of me on any officers that have been disciplined this year for a use of force. I will tell you this, and I applaud the city of Akron for doing this. A game changer for all police departments across the nation when it comes to this type of issue of telling the story of exactly what happened are the body cameras. When you look at, again, our data, and please, you're asking me specific question about this. I'm not in any way, shape, or form minimizing what happened here on June 27th at all. That is just, we're going to look at what happened there. BCI is going to do their criminal investigation. We're going to do an internal investigation, as I've said since day one. But overall, when you look at the number of complaints that we've received in this city for officers, it's consistently since 2018 been around 50, 51, with a low year in 2020 being 36. Again, when you lay that over 150,000 contacts, I think in 1 year was 181,000. That tells you something about this police department and the officers that are serving this community. But we look at every single use of force. We look at the body cam footage. Officers have to explain why they used the force, and then decisions are made whether or not the use of force was within our policies or not. If it was not within our policies, then the disciplinary process will kick in.
Thanks, Chief. Next question is from Jim McKinnon with the Akron Beacon Journal. People on social media say Akron officers have not been wearing badges identifying their names and other identification. Is this true? And if so, why have officers not been wearing badges? Were officers given instructions not to wear badges?
Every officer is wearing a badge. I authorize them to take their name tag off because of the threats that were made against our officers and the bounties that were placed on officers' heads. People were getting their names off of their uniform, getting on social media and elsewhere, going into our Facebook page here on the police department to identify, get a picture, send that picture and that image out into the public. In some instances, they got family photographs and put it out on social media. But because of the threats that were made against our officers, I authorized them to take off their name tag. If they were asked for their identifying information, they were directed to give them their employee number, and that if the person was not satisfied with that, the supervisor would be summoned to the scene and deal with the situation.
Thanks, Chief. Next question is from Kaylee Remington with Cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. When are the names of the police officers involved in the shooting death of Jalen going to be released? I know this is one we've gotten a few times, but I think it's important to address that question. Chief?
So that information it's a good question. I was under the impression at the conclusion of the grand jury's findings that the Attorney General's office would release that. I have been challenged with that answer, so we're trying to get a clear direction from the Attorney General's office. I am not releasing their names. Again, I've been very clear on this. Our officers have been threatened. Akron's officers have been threatened. And when I'm not trying to hide anything or anything like that, but we all, the mayor, myself, the deputy mayor, we have a responsibility to provide a safe and secure place for all people in Akron. We also have that responsibility for our employees. And I believe, based on the threats that have been made against our officers, releasing their names would only increase the level of threats against them. And I'm afraid people, some people may act on those threats. And I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that doesn't happen.
Thanks, Chief. Next one is from Jim McKinnon again. Thank you for the update on the current curfew. Does this mean the public can expect the curfew to remain in place through at least the weekend? Mayor Horrigan?
Yeah, Jim, that's a daily discussion as we talked about this morning is what that curfew looked like. Obviously, we bumped it up from 10 to 11. We have a number of events that are downtown that work in with that. Obviously, there's a minor league baseball team in town that is on the road right now. And as soon as a final decision it's kind of been day to day as we've worked through that. and we'll continue to look at that. And as soon as we have, the next update, we'll provide that to the press and to the community as soon as we make it.
Thanks, Mayor. So this one's from Jim McKinnon again. What is the status of creating a civilian oversight board for the police? What authority would the board have? Would the board have subpoena power? Mayor?
I know this was a recommendation from Akron City Council's Reimagining Public Safety. It was also a strong recommendation from President Somerville and my Racial Equity and Social Justice Task Force. As we got the task force report at the end of February, we've looked at a number of models and are working with City Council leadership and City Council to fashion and put that together. I don't have a specific update that says X, X, and S. We are working through and have looked at a number of models, both Cleveland and Columbus, New Orleans, Denver, Louisville, a number of those communities that have police oversight boards, police oversight commissions, and obviously working through some of the details of how many members would be on there and all of those conversations. And, it's a wide array of voices that are going to weigh in. And it's certainly been going in that direction and looking forward to presenting legislation to Akron City Council and getting their thoughts on, this is a community input oversight board and going from there. Don't have an exact timeline, but I think we'll have one pretty soon as far as a process of what's next.
Thanks, Mayor. It looks like that was it for the press questions. I did just want to go to a couple of questions from the public that we've been getting recently, since we don't have any from press right now. There's one regarding the helicopters that have been flying over the city, and if we could confirm if those are Akron police helicopters or some other organization. Chief, could you address that one?
Yeah, the Akron Police Department does not have a helicopter. We had received air support from OSP, and at different times there have been news media that have been flying over the city and capturing images and such, but APD does not have a helicopter, but we did get air support at different times from OSP.
Thanks, Chief. We also keep seeing questions regarding Akron City Council's decision to go virtual on Monday and whether that was due to a bomb threat. Can you just confirm whether there was a threat or not?
So to our knowledge, there was no bomb threats that were came in through our 911 call center or through the police department. I'm not sure where that information came from. So that is not something that was generated through the police department. Now, look, there's a whole lot of threats that are being made on social media. There could have been something there. It could have been word of mouth that didn't get over to us, but we did not have that information. But I could certainly understand where somebody would read it or hear it and respond and react to it.
Thanks, Chief. Looks like those were all the questions. We didn't have any other from press at this time. Mayor, did you want to make some closing remarks?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for being on today. We will continue with these informational updates through Friday and then reassess over the weekend about how frequent they are going into next week. We'll certainly share those as quickly as we make that decision as how often we do these updates into next week. So thanks again for everybody for joining.